TestNG assertion verifies if the test passed or if the test failed. We have the option of using hard assertions and soft assertions. The difference happens after a failure. A hard assert stops execution after a failure, but a soft assert continues execution after a failure. It is best to use a hard assert if our test only has one result to verify in the same annotation. However, if our test has more than one result to verify in the same annotation, then it is best to use a soft assert. There are many assertions for TestNG. However, most of the methods are overloaded versions of assert true, assert false, assert same, assert not same, assert not null, and assert equals. Assert true verifies that a condition is true. Assert false verifies a condition is false. Assert same verifies that two objects refer to the same object. Assert not same verifies that two objects do not refer to the same object. Assert not null verifies that an object is not null. Assert equal verifies that the actual results and the expected results are equal. When it comes to the assertion classes, TestNG offers org.testng.assert and org.testng.assertJUnit. Most people use the first class, org.testng.assert. The second class was added as a guarantee to keep all assertions for anyone migrating from JUnit to TestNG. When it comes to the differences between those classes, one of the differences comes to the syntax. Their parameters are available in reverse order. For example, the assert equals method for the assert class has actual results, then expected results, followed by an optional string message. The assert JUnit class has the string message followed by expected results, then actual results. Let's go to the IDE and take a look at the TestNG library. And you will see what I'm talking about in the TestNG library. In the TestNG library, we see assert and assert JUnit. In the assert class, we see some of those same overloaded methods. In the assert JUnit class, it also has some of those same overloaded methods. Also in this library, asserts directory, we see the Soft Assert class. For the first test, we're going to click this demo checkbox demo link. Find the checkbox, then click the checkbox. After clicking the checkbox, we will assert the message has success. The second test, on the home page, we will click the radio buttons demo. And for this group, radio buttons demo section, we're going to click the gender and age group. Gender, how about other? Age group, how about 5 to 15? After clicking those radio buttons, the next step is to click the Get Values button. And with clicking that Get Values button, we will assert in our test the gender and age group. And let's see if it fails or if it passes. Now, starting with our test, let's create a class by right-clicking Demo, TestNG, New, Java class. The name is Assertions Test. Next, we're going to write WebDriver. And we're also going to import WebDriver. Now it's time to set up our test by writing at before method, public void, setup. Now we're going to write WebDriver Manager to set up Chrome driver. At this point, we will create an instance of Chrome driver by writing driver equals new Chrome driver. Maximize the window with driver.manage.window.maximize. At this point, we will load the AUT with driver.get. Go back to the AUT to copy the URL. Paste the URL. Now we are finished setting up the test. To start the test, we're going to write add test, public, void, test, single checkbox. Now, let's go to the AUT and start some inspections. Let's start with inspecting the checkbox demo link. We see it has a text of checkbox demo. Go back to the IDE and find the link by writing driver.findElement by link text. Paste the value of checkbox demo. And for the link, we perform an action of click. Now, let's go back to the AUT. Click this checkbox demo link, and we're going to inspect the checkbox. And we see it has an ID value of 𝒆𝒐𝒏𝒆𝒔 selected. Copy that value, go back to the IDE, and write driver.findElement by ID. Paste the value, and we click the checkbox. At this point, we need the message. So I'm going to inspect the message. It has an ID value of txt age. Copy that value. Now we're going to find it by writing driver.findElement by ID, pasting the value. Now, at this point, we have the message. We have found the message, and we will use the getText method to get the message, and it will return a string. Therefore, we assign it to a string with the name called actual message. Okay. The next step is to verify if the test passed or if the test failed. Let's start by writing a hard assert with assert dot, and we see the overloaded methods. We also can see the overloaded methods if I write assert JUnit dot. It has some of those same methods. Recall TestNG added this distribution for people migrating from JUnit. Our focus would be assert. So let's use assert true and make sure the actual message contains success. If it does not contain success, then the assertion will display message does not contain success. The message is not required and will only print if the assertion failed. Let's run. It passed. Personally, I believe it is a good practice to make your test fail on purpose. You want to see how your tests respond to a failure. So on my projects, I make the test fail on purpose by updating something like changing success to test. Then I will run again. just to get an idea on what will happen in case of a failure and how it looks when it fails. We see it failed and scroll down, and now we see the assertion message. It says, message does not contain success. Expected true, but found false. Cool. So now I'm going to change this back to success. For the next test, test annotation, it is public void, and we will test radio buttons with an S. Go back to the home page, inspect radio buttons demo, and we see the text is radio buttons demo. Okay, we will use Selenium's link text method to find this link and click the link. In the group radio buttons demo section, let's inspect other, the radio button. And we see it does not have an ID value, but it has a value attribute with the value of other. Let's find this element by writing 2// input, which is the tag name, 2 square brackets, at value, which is the attribute name, equals to the value other. We found the element, and the indicator is showing a yellow background. So now let's go ahead and click the link on the home page, and we're going to click the gender radio button of other. So let's write driver.findElement by link text. The link text is, I think it was radio, let me go back and copy it, radio buttons demo with an S. The method is click. Now we're going to click the gender, and that is driver.findElement by XPath, paste the value, click. At this point, let's go back and inspect the age group radio button, 5 to 15. We see it has a value of 5 to 15. So I will replace other with that value. And as expected, it found the element. So I'm going to copy the value, go back to the IDE, and write driver.findElement by XPath, paste the value, and also click. Now, next is the get the values button. And by the get values button, we will also click. Let me inspect. It does not have an ID value, but we see the button tag name, type attribute, and class attribute. So let's find this element with text by first starting with 2// button, the tag name, square brackets, text, parenthesis, equals, single quotes, paste the value. There it is. Copy and go back to the IDE. And going back to the IDE, we're going to first find it, driver.findElement by XPath, paste the value, and we're going to click. Now, we're going to get the values after clicking get values. And the first one we're going to get is the gender. We see it has a span tag with one attribute, and that attribute is called class. Normally, I would not use the class attribute to find the value, but for this demo, let's go ahead and find it using CSS selector. And the shortcut for the class attribute is dot. And the name was gender button. Once again, we see the yellow background highlighted, which shows that we have found the element. So I'm going to copy the value, Go back to the IDE, and this time I'm going to write driver.findElement by CSS selector, then paste in the value. The method is getText. And since it returns a string, we're going to assign it to a string called actual gender. And I'm going to place it on 2 different lines because it's pretty long, that one statement. Now, we have found and we are going to get the text of gender. Next is the age group. Go back and inspect age group. It has a class attribute with the name of group radio button. So all I'm going to do is replace gender button with group radio button, and we have found that element. Copy the value, come back and write string actual age group, if I spell it right, and find it by writing driver.findElement by CSS selector, paste the value. GetText is the method. Bingo. Now we are finished setting up everything. When it comes to assertions, I will first demo hard assert, then demo soft assert. For hard assert, we write assert dot. This time, let's use assert equals. I want to make it fail on purpose. Therefore, actual age group, actual gender is what we click in the application under test, but the expected value is male. Now, since we're going to make it fail on purpose, this message would show up. Actual gender is not correct. We're clicking other, but expect male. For the next assertion, we write assert dot assert true. And it will see if the actual age group contains, how about 34? And when it comes to this part, looking at it right now, we know both statements will fail. And when this fails, we're going to see a message of actual age group is not correct. Okay, so both statements will fail. Now let's check and see. Let's run. The statement failed. However, in the console, we see only one assertion error. Actual gender is not correct. Expected male, but found other. Notice the second assertion is not available. That's because we use a hard assertion, and hard assertion stops executing our test script immediately after the failure. Okay, now I would have changed from a hard assert to a soft assert, and watch what happens. At the top, let's declare soft assert with any reference name such as soft assert equals new soft assert. The soft assert class extends the assertion class. As a result, we have access to all of the overloaded methods just like the assert class. Let's investigate by pressing Control, hovering the class, and clicking the class. And let me minimize these methods right quick. And we see in the soft assert class, there's only 3 methods. The do assert class, the do assert method is protected, and we have overloaded methods of assertAll. That's it. I'm going to scroll up, and we see that it has a constructor of Soft Assert, and it extends assertion. If I click assertion, we see those same overloaded methods of assert true. We see assert false, and it has more overloaded methods like assert equals. Now, we are going to go back to our test script. Let's continue testing. I'm going to replace assert with soft assert in both places. And this time, I'm going to run again, and you will see the difference between hard assert and soft assert. Know what? This time it's going to pass. And that's one thing that we must always remember to do. And I will show you. We know it should fail, but watch what happens. Because I did not add one key method. You see it shows a pass, and we know it did not pass. If I scroll, we do not see no assertions. That's because we must always remember to add soft assert .assertAll at the end with an optional message of test soft assert. Now watch what happens when I run again. It failed. So if you use soft assert, remember to always use assertAll at the end. Now that it failed, let's check the console. We see both assertion messages. First, we see actual gender is not correct. Expected male, but found other. And we also see the other assertion message, which is age group is not correct. And if someone wonders why I add the \n at the back and front, because in my opinion, it's good for readability. You see how this is all on one line, but this is on two separate lines. That's why I like to put the insertion, but it shows both messages because its soft assert continues execution after a failure. Now, we also see that message of test soft assert. Let me go back now, and I'm going to remove this message because it's optional. And I'm going to run again and watch how it reads different in the console. Let's run. We see it failed. Scrolling, and we see both assertion messages. Actual gender is not correct. Expected male, but found other. Actual age group is not correct. Expected true, but found false. Let's do one more thing. And let's make the second assertion pass by changing 34 to 15. Now, let's run again. Okay, the test still failed because gender is not male, it is other. But I wanted you to see how it's still executed and continued, and it shows that the second assertion is not available because it passed since the age group contains 15. So as a recap, an assertion statement verifies if a test passed or if the test failed. There is a difference between hard assert and soft assert. A hard assert stops execution after a failure, then move on to the next annotation. If there is another annotation, it does not matter if the next annotation is a test annotation or a configuration annotation. it's going to move to the next statement line. A soft assertion continues execution after a failure. It was designed to keep executing our test when a verification step fails. Now, when you're looking at this diagram, you see how there are many conditions on the left side, and we see soft assert _all on the right side. There are many overloaded methods in the assert class. Now, with this part, the diagram, it shows a few assertion methods on the left. And when it comes to that, the assertions are pointing to the assertAll method because they indicate an assertion error gets stored into the assertAll method. As a result, we place the assertAll method at the end of our test every time. And I showed how if we don't place it at the end, it would pass every time. It is best to use a hard assert if you are verifying only one result, and a soft assert if you are verifying more than one result. That's it for soft assertions, hard assertions. Next, we will parameterize our test with TestNG and Selenium. And thanks for watching.